And good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Oldgits. I can't believe it's Monday already. Doesn't seem 5 minutes since we were here last week. Yes, Monday already. Now, you're not going to see much of me this week. It's probably a bit of a relief here, actually. Not live, anyway. You're going to see me anyway, but not live. I got a chance to chat with Andy Morrison of the NNA over the weekend about his recent visit to the Scottish Consultation that you saw over, I think it was Thursday, with Dave Dawn. So this is a bit of a continuation of that. And I got a chance to speak with Andy a bit more in depth from his perspective. So I'm going to show the first part of that in the first half of the show. Then we'll have our first set of adverts, and then I'll show the second half of the interview after that. And we'll get a chance to have a chat with it. We've got Dave Dawn with us, so we can have a chat with him about it as well. If he wants to join in with us, that's entirely up to him. So we'll get into it. You can sit back, get your favourite vape, get a drink, sit back and relax and listen to Andy Morrison. As you know, he has a lot to say, and you'll get an in-depth view of what he thought of the Scottish Consultation. So, Producer Bob, will you play the first half of the interview for us, mate? Right. Anyway, I'm here with Andy Morrison of the NNA, among many other things, no doubt. How are you, Andy?
Very well, thank you, Keef. Yeah, very well indeed. Got over the last couple of weeks craziness. Yeah.
Yes, you've been a very, very busy man.
Yeah, a lot of it was my own fault, really. There's been a lot going on, and that tends to happen in vaping advocacy. You know, you're sitting there, not doing nothing, but you get the quiet times, and then everything comes crashing down on top of your head.
Oh yes.
This one certainly did. I take it you're wanting to talk about the Scottish Consultation.
Yes. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, well, it all started about a couple of months ago, really. You know, when we got wind of the fact that there was to be a Scottish Consultation, the Sports and Health Committee were going through a bill, and we were asked to. Well, everyone was asked to, put forward their views. So we did, we duly did. And to be quite honest, the bill wasn't too bad. As we saw, it's certainly nowhere near as bad as what they're going through in Wales. I mean, poor Simon Thurlow, it's absolutely horrific what he's got to go through here. And we were quite fortunate. I mean, we'd already had previous meetings with the Scottish Government, which had all gone well. That was way back, let me think. We're talking way back in January now.
Yeah.
And the meetings were great. You know, they told us there was no plans to legislate for a public place ban for e-cigs, so we were delighted with that. We had that all recorded. The issues that we did have, or the potential issues that we did have, and we wrote to the government about, were the proxy sales, for one. It was going to become against the law to have proxy sales on electronic cigarettes. Yeah. And we had several concerns about that. Mainly, our main concern was that if a parent of say a 12-year-old child was found to be smoking, they could be prosecuted under a new law for trying to get them off on e-cigs. Whereas, we all know that NRT can be prescribed to 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
So we had an issue with that, and we got it in writing off them to say that in a circumstance like that, the parent would not be prosecuted, which is fair enough. But I still feel that this should be made clear. It should be perfectly clear.
Oh yeah, it should be definitely made clear.
Yeah, but anyway, we've got that in writing off them. The other thing that we had an issue was the tobacco register. They want e-cigarettes on the tobacco register, and again we received confirmation from them, and I'll more or less quote word for word, the outward facing part of the would differentiate between NVPs and tobacco. So it was a kind of a compromise there that we've come up with. We would have preferred a completely separate register, but that's not going to happen. There's all sorts of costs involved in it and so forth. But the outward facing part should be, we'll be able to distinguish between electronic cigarettes and tobacco. The other part was the smoking ban on NHS grounds. The wording of the bill didn't make it clear that e-cigs would not be part of that. In other words, you'd still be able to use e-cigs within the law on hospital grounds. So again, we got confirmation on that e-cigs were not to be included. So that just really left advertising. They wanted to restrict or ban advertising of electronic cigarettes. So we kind of put our views forward on that as to why there shouldn't be restrictions and so forth. They're very obvious to us that we want to be able to get a step ahead of big tobacco, and why shouldn't you be allowed to advertise something that's 95% safer? Right, and of course, in between times, the 95% safer thing has been made clear by Public Health England. So we've got a pretty strong argument there. So the other thing that I had put in our response to the consultation was that we felt that NNA should be granted a place for the oral part of the consultation, which basically follows on from the written part. We didn't get any response as such to that. However, I did a little bit more digging, and it turned out that Duncan McNeill was the MSP who was heading up the Sports and Health Committee consultation on this bill.
Yeah.
It just so happens that Duncan McNeill is my local MSP. So I thought, wow, here's a chance. I can get a meeting with him. And he can't really refuse me a meeting. Okay, he can delay it and all the rest of it, as usual MPs tend to do.
Yeah.
But he accepted my request for a meeting. I went down and spoke with him for about an hour, and he was quite impressed with what NNA stood for. He quite liked the idea of e-cigs and stuff like that. He's an ex-smoker himself. He still smokes cigars occasionally and stuff like that. And he thought it was fantastic, the arguments that I was coming away with. And he made a couple of phone calls there and then saying that we should be, as part of this oral consultation. I didn't hear anything from him for a while, and it turned out he was going away on leave, but I kept pressing the case, and eventually I got an email saying, yep, you're going to be included, and the first oral evidence was going to take place on the 1st of September. So I thought, great, no problem. This was way beginning August. In fact, it was probably the end of July.
Yeah.
That we got confirmation of this, and I was quite happy. I've got plenty of time to sort all this out. So I looked at the procedures, having never been on one of these things before. I looked at the procedures and got some information, spoke with Linda Bald, and she was a bit kind of, as well, she didn't really know, she couldn't really give me much guidance. But I found some information that, generally speaking, what happens is that you're asked to give a kind of 10-minute speech as an introduction when you're called to give evidence.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, great, plenty of time on this, no problems, and then things started to fall off the barra. The wheels started to fall off the barra, so to speak. One of my mates was going out to Germany in the middle of August, and normally I go with him to Germany on all these occasions, and then I thought, look, I ain't going to be able to do this time. So I had to disappoint him and say, look, I cannot go. I've got too much on my plate, and that is that. Now, my birthday fell on the 4th of August, and my good lady, Lorraine, decided in her great wisdom that she was going to pay for my flights out to Germany and 5 nights in a hotel. And when she gave me this birthday present, I just looked at her and I said, I can't go. And then I thought, you cannot possibly say that when someone's done that for your birthday.
No, not really.
So, I mean, it was really quite awful that I'd said it in the first place. So I said, look, I'm going. Yeah, absolutely. Terrific birthday present. Thank you so much. Blah, blah, blah. And the upshot of that is that I was going out to Germany. Now, still left a week for me to prepare for this consultation. I thought, right, great, no problem. I'll go to Germany. I'll enjoy the holiday. And I did. It was a thoroughly enjoyable holiday. Some of you may have even seen the stuff I was pushing out on Twitter at the time. It was really, really good. Anyway, I got back from that holiday, and within a day, I got a phone call from my business partner who lives in Edinburgh, but he also has a house down in Funchal, or just outside Funchal in Madeira, saying, help, help, my house has been burgled down in Madeira. Yeah. Would you with me? And I went, uh-oh. But again, it's one of these things, you can't turn the guy down.
Not really, no.
You know, you got to go and do these things. So it turned out I was going down for a week in Madeira, and the mess that we had to clear up down there and get everything sorted out, it literally took us a week to do it. We were struggling for time at the end of the day. So no work got done on the consultation, although I did manage a board meeting with NNA over Skype and a very, very ropey internet connection while I was down there. So that meant I was heading back up the road, and I had a couple of days to sort this out. But as it turns out, as you know, Glasgow School of Vape was taking place on Sunday.
Yes.
Now, it meant that I got home at 2 o'clock on the Sunday morning in Edinburgh, and I had to drive back through to Greenock to be up in the morning to go and pick Sarah Jakes up at the airport on the Sunday morning, back down to Greenock, jump on a train up to Glasgow School of Vape, set all the stuff up there. We had a cracking day there, as you saw from the VT that was taken there.
I wish I could have been there myself, to be honest.
It was out of this world, Keith. I mean, we were taken aback by the support that NNA got up there. I mean, I'd already sort of done the groundwork for that in the first School of Vape. Everybody was very interested, but they didn't understand, you know, what was going on. And this second one, the whole thing just took off. And as you know, we raised 712 quid for NNA on that day. The vendors were superb. The vapors were superb. Everything was just out of this world. A lot of drink was consumed, and we caught a rather, well, not a late train back, but by the time we got back here, and Sarah was stopping overnight with me. We were up early again the next morning to get Sarah back to the airport on the Monday, and I was due to start work at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And the oral evidence session in Edinburgh was the next again day, and I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do here? So after dropping Sarah off, I came back here, I fell asleep. I woke up about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was so tired, I was just totally and utterly shattered.
That's not surprising, really.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a case of out to work from 4 o'clock in the evening until 11 o'clock at the evening. And I thought, it's okay, I've still got time here. So from 11 o'clock in the evening right through to 4 o'clock in the morning, I prepared this 10-minute speech. And what I was trying to do was, as I say, we were quite happy, aside from the advertising, we were quite happy with what we'd achieved with the written consultation and what the government weren't going to do.
Yeah.
You know, no ban in the public places and stuff like that, unlike Wales. So what I tried to do with the speech that I'd written out was try and divert more of the attention away to how the TPD was going to affect us with all this, and you know, still use, you know, parts of the consultation, but get digs in there along those lines. So 4 o'clock in the morning, I've got this all ready to go. And I'm thinking, I've got to get up at 6 to get ready, so that gives me 2 hours sleep. And I thought, I know what's going to happen here. I'm going to fall asleep here, and I ain't going to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Nothing's going to wake me up. So I thought, stuff it, I'll just stay awake. So I stayed awake, got myself sorted out. On the train at 7 o'clock in the morning through to Edinburgh. I'm sitting on the train, going through this stuff that I'd written out, you know, rehearsing it all ready, great stuff. Get there to Edinburgh, plenty of time. I'm talking 10 to 10, the meeting doesn't start until 10:15. I meet up with Linda Bald, I meet up with Sheila Duffy, I meet up with Simon Clark. We have a little blather beforehand, and everybody's the same. Linda's, you know, a bit nervous. Sheila Duffy's a bit nervous. Simon's done all this kind of stuff before, so you know, he's got no problems with it whatsoever. We get in there, and the first thing we find out is that this speech is not going to be called for. And that just hit me for 6. It really did.
I'm not surprised after all that.
I was totally gutted about it because, you know, I thought, I'm going to be fine here. Anyway, I'm still tired, and, you know, the questions started flying backwards and forwards. And I think I did okay on the questions, but I didn't really get a chance to turn it around. Things kept getting diverted to the ban on smoking. And Simon Clark, you know, I mean, he's good at this. He really is good at this kind of thing.
He was extremely impressive. I was very impressed with him.
Linda was good as well.
Oh,
I mean, superb. And the one bit that I kind of fell over on was when one of the guys asked me, or one of the MSPs asked me, right, you've mentioned responsible advertising. How do we regulate this? And I said, well, you know, we don't want advertising aimed at children and at non-smokers. And he said, yeah, but how do we regulate this? And I sort of thought, well, what do you mean? You know, I didn't really understand his question. Now, in hindsight, I know the answer to that now. You know, there are ASA guidelines there at the moment, there's CAP codes. That's what I should have said to him. You don't need to go any further than that. But I don't know, I went blank on it. So I just repeated.
That was understandable after everything you'd been through leading up to that.
Yeah. But the rest of it, I think, went reasonably well. I mean, I say I didn't get a chance to make the points that I would have made with the 10-minute speech. I was really going to go to town, really, with that, and it just didn't come off. So I was disappointed in that. But having said that, some good things came out of it at the end. Two of the MSPs approached me at the end, albeit very, very briefly. I mean, these guys are busy. They're busy, busy people. They're running from one meeting to the next. One of them was a vapor, which I knew there was one MSP vapor in Scotland, but I didn't know who he was or where he was. Turns out he's in Oban constituency, it's a long way away from me. But I go up to Fort William once a month, and I've got a chance that I might be able to, if I can get in touch with him, you know, I can maybe arrange a meeting with him. And he said to me, you know, what we're going to do when this TPD kicks in. But the meeting had finished by then, and I said, yeah, I said we've got big problems here. And he was on a Cigalite, but he seemed to be getting on okay with vaping. And just as I was talking to him, the smoking MSP, again SNP, was walking past, and he says, I can't get on with this vaping. I've got one, but I'm not getting on with it. And he was only walking past me as he was saying this. And I said to him, I can help you there. But by the time I'd said that, he'd gone, he'd disappeared. So that's another one that I've got to follow up on, and I will follow up on that.
So there were two of these MSPs in the conference that were, well, one was a definite vapor. And the other one was a potentially a vapor.
Yeah, I believe he tried the vaping, but he wasn't getting on with it. That was his exact words to me. And as I say, these were only fleeting bits of contact that I had with him. The vapor guy from Oban, I'm trying to think his name now, it's Mike McKenzie. He gave me his card, so I've got his email address and stuff like that now, and I'm going to pursue him. So, and I'm also going to get back in touch with Duncan McNeil and request a follow-up meeting and make sure that we get all the feedback that we can from, I mean, there are other witnesses being called throughout the week and probably into the future. So this has got a long way to run yet. I felt that the MSPs were quite good in that, you know, they were listening to what we were saying. Okay, they were scrutinising us, but I mean that's to be expected. And as I say, I'm relatively happy at the moment. We have been warned by the government in the past that although there is no legislation planned for a public place ban, it will be called for. You know, the lunatics out there are going to call for it at some stage, and we've got to be ready for that. So we'll wait and see how that pans out. I mean, the other thing about the smoking in hospital grounds, the NHS up here have taken it upon themselves to not only ban smoking on NHS grounds, they've banned vaping on NHS grounds. It's not a law, so it's not a legal, a kind of lawful thing, if you like. So I don't know what they actually could do. I mean, basically they'll come up to you and say, could you please not do that? And if they did that to me, I'd just say, no, plain and simple, no, I won't. You know, what are you going to do about it, sort of thing. I mean, I won't be obstructive or nasty or anything like that, but I'm waiting for them to do it, and at the moment they're not doing it. I do a lot of voluntary work where I'm taking patients up and down from Inverclyde, and I've got to stand about in the hospital grounds for an hour, maybe 2 hours at a time, and I've been vaping openly. Okay, not going crazy and blowing dirty great clouds about the place, that's just stupid. I mean, this is down to vaping etiquette at least. But I've made it clear, and you know, the so-called, I don't know what you call them, the guys that are supposed to be enforcing this ban, it's not a lawful ban, but it is a ban. Yeah, they're totally disregarding it. I mean, even with smokers, they're not enforcing it. So that's a good thing.
It's down to the hospital security, isn't it, really? At the end
It
of
is.
the
I
day.
dare say they're under some form of instruction, Keith, but they're not enforcing it as it stands at the moment. Although there's a part of me that wants one of these guys to come up and say, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then I can argue the toss with them, so to speak. But it hasn't happened yet. And as I say, I'm up there quite regularly. And I've got good relationships at Gartnavel Royal Hospital with Rebecca Campbell, who's the NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde tobacco lead sort of thing. And I've had several meetings with her, and she's been absolutely brilliant. And she's in favour of e-cigarettes. So, we've helped her out. She came to me months and months ago and asked me to do a frequently asked questions on e-cigarettes, and it's now part of their website. She asked me to come and speak to Stop Smoking Services people, and I had a meeting with them. Fantastic, great stuff. Unfortunately, I'm finding that the Stop Smoking Services people, their hands are tied.
Yeah.
They really, they want to do something, but they can't. They're frightened that they're going to get trodden upon by the powers that be and so forth. So it's very, very difficult ground. Although with the Public Health England thing coming out last week, I think we are changing hearts and minds, and people they really are going to have to look at this again and say, hang on a minute. I mean, the NHS in particular, there's no grounds for this.
I mean, with the Public Health England report saying e-cigs are 95% less harmful than smoking, I mean, NHS have got to look at that and say, well, if Public Health England are saying that, how come we're banning vaping on our grounds? Indeed.
As I say, I've got good relationships with these people now. I've got a great relationship with Sheila Duffy after the oral witness session. I went and had a cup of coffee with Sheila. We sat down. We've got our differences, don't get me wrong, and I know Dave Dawn had a little bit of a dig at Sheila the other night, but we do have a good relationship going. I can go and talk to her at any time. She can come and talk to me at any time. We understand where each other's coming from, and we tend not to tread on each other's toes, and we look for the common ground between us. I'd like Ash Scotland to be a bit more vociferous in their condemnation of some of the things coming out, instead of saying, oh, that's unhelpful, we would like them to come out and say, look, that's downright ridiculous. So, but they're not doing that at the moment, but a lot further forward than we were a year, 2 years ago. So, good relationships. Great relationship with Linda Ball. She's fantastic. She dug me out of the hole with the bit I was telling you about the advertising there. She did come to my rescue, so to speak. And she's done that a couple of times. I'm good when I know what I'm going to say. I'm not so good at when I'm put under pressure and under questioning. I tend to forget my lines because the lines don't exist. They're in my mind, but I can't dig them out quick enough. And as I say, I was a little bit disappointed in my performance on the day.
I don't think you've got anything at all to be disappointed about, mate.
Well, I'll tell you the truth, Keith. I know it's all been videoed, and I hate watching myself on TV, and I hate listening to myself. So I've not even watched it, but I did read the script. The committee sent me a script, and I read through it, and I thought, hang on a minute, this isn't as bad as I'm making out here. Okay, I didn't get the points across that I wanted to get across, but I answered all the questions, and I did what I could on the day.
You did very well, mate. Very well.
Well, I think the fact that it's going to go further, it's not going to just end there. There's going to be further consultation. I don't know what the next steps are. I know they're taking evidence from a lot of other people now. I don't know what happens after that. So I'm going to have to be on the forefront and sort of nail these people down and say, right, what happens next?
Often imitated, never duplicated. Award-winning service and products from cloud9vaping.co.uk.
Dripper selection boxes now come in 0 and 3mg strengths. So tell Dripper the kind of flavours you like and we'll send you 70ml of some of the world's most exciting flavours every month. With free delivery anywhere in Europe, treat yourself to a Dripper box today.
Dripper.co.uk.
Joytech UK are proud sponsors of vapetrails.tv.
And we are back. And that was the first part of my interview with Andy Morrison. And as you saw, he had a lot to say in that first part. A very in-depth look into his perspective, like on a personal level, as well as an NNA perspective. You got an insight into what he saw more in depth, really, from what you saw on Dave Dawn's show on Thursday. So a bit more information to go on, as like the MSPs were talking about and everything else basically. So we'll go straight into the second part of the interview. So producer Bob, can you play in the second part of the interview, please, mate?
We don't want doing like they did with the TPD and start making decisions behind closed doors.
Definitely
not.
not.
Well, I've got a sneaky feeling that's what will probably happen, but I may be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. Or or at least if they are going to make decisions behind closed doors, only take on board the evidence that was presented to them. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. But there's an awful lot more in the pipeline.
Or if they do make decisions behind closed doors, that at least they take some of the right people behind those closed doors with them.
Well, the mere fact that we got to where we did, i.e. we got into the oral part of it. I mean, a couple of years ago, we wouldn't have gotten near anything like that. You know, it's really good that NNA is being recognised now, especially up here in Scotland. And these people now know who we are, what we're about, and so forth. So, I mean, they know we're all about tobacco harm reduction. They know where we're coming from. They know where our arguments stem from, and so forth. And they did listen, to be fair. But as I say, there's an awful lot more going on up here alongside. Well, we had the Glasgow School of Vape. That was a rip-roaring success. Absolutely incredible. I mean, Sarah and Dave helped out immensely there. But I'm struggling. I have to say I'm struggling because I feel a wee bit left out on a limb. I'm the only guy up here at the moment, and everything's kind of falling in my plate. Okay, I'm lucky and I do have a lot of time in my hands. But, you know, I'm not well versed in all the political procedures and so forth. And I am learning as I go along. So, and I'm a bit of a slow learner sometimes, you know. And there's so much information to take in, and to try and get it regurgitated out in a meaningful manner, sometimes I struggle. And, you know, I'm the first to admit that. I could do with someone the likes of Simon Clark, who's well versed in that, you know, to be able to go to these things. You know, I can do all the planning and stuff like that, but to go to these things and speak well.
Yeah.
I mean, Sheila Duffy said to me, look, where you don't come across particularly well, you more than make up for in your passion for, you know, what you believe in and so forth, and your dedication to everything like that. So, you know, it's okay, it's maybe one plus point, but I really need some help up here.
Yeah,
and I didn't realise that. But that's coming underway. I mean, Paddy and Jerry are looking to come up here very, very shortly to try and find out if we can get me someone else, maybe someone else on the board of NNA in Scotland. So, we'll just keep plugging away. And as I say, there are good things coming up. I'm going to follow up with these MSPs. And I got a terrific email from Linda Bald just Thursday. What day is this? Is Saturday? Yeah, Thursday. I mean, I was feeling down in the dumps. And Linda sent me an email saying, look, there's a project coming up. And it's to do with sort of late stage cancer patients. They're actually going to be looking at giving them e-cigs. Really? And I just started crying when I saw this email. I thought, oh wow, if we can do something like this. And she said, would you want to be a part of this? And I said, yeah. I jumped at the opportunity. So this is coming off. I won't get into too much detail on it, but if it does, it's going to be something really massive, and it's going to turn more hearts and minds if we can, make an impact there. We've got in November. We've got myself and Louise Ross have put forward an abstract for the Ash Scotland Smoking Cessation Conference, which both myself and Louise attended last year. That's how we got in touch with Rebecca Campbell. I'll tell you a wee story there about that. Some people may know about this, but myself and Louise spoke at this conference November last year, and we thought, we're on a hiding to nothing here. They're all antis and all the rest of it. But the two sessions that we did were very, very well received on e-cigs, and the way Stop Smoking Services Leicester have been sort of promoting e-cigs and so forth. And towards the end of this conference, in the summing up, Rebecca Campbell, the lead for tobacco and NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde, stood up and said, it's clear that we need to speak to smokers and vapers, and we need to engage with them. Now, me and Louise just turned and looked at each other and went, wow, did she just say that?
I'm not surprised.
It was, we were stunned, we were astonished. And maybe about 20 minutes later, the conference ended. Louise had to rush back and get a train, but we ran out of the Grand Hotel. We went up to Glasgow Central Station Bar and promptly ordered 2 Prosecco's and sat down and drank them. And we just sat there and looked at each other and said, did that just happen? And it did, it was really utterly fantastic. Anyway, Louise had to rush off and catch a train. So I saw Louise on at the train and I thought, nah, I'm not finished here. I'm going back into this hotel and see if I can track them down. I'd never met her before, I'd never heard of her. So I'm wandering through the corridors of this hotel and I spotted her and I walked straight up to her and she kind of smiled at me and I just said to her, you get it, don't you? She says, oh yes, I get it. I says, have you got time for a coffee? She says, yeah, sure, we'll go for a cup of coffee. And we went up to the bar, we sat down, we had a cup of coffee. I had a mod on me with a dripper, and she says, oh, can I have a look at your device there? I says, yeah, sure, and I sparked up this dripper. She says, oh, that smells brilliant. She says, do you mind if I have your email address and we'll keep in touch? I said, no problem at all. So we swapped email addresses, and things have just blossomed from there. Went up, had a few meetings with her, and as I say, she asked me to do the FAQ for the website. We've done all that. This is an NHS website. I mean, I think she stuck her neck out in stuck herself out in a limb here, and she's done it, and it's done. And she then said, would you come and speak to Stop Smoking Services? What I'll do is I'll get them all together, and if you can come and do a kind of presentation. I said, yeah, absolutely, do this, no problem at all. So went up there, and there's all the kind of Greater Glasgow and Clyde Stop Smoking Services people there. And I brought in a whole load of devices and bottles of juice. The usual kind of thing that I do. I was producing devices from my pocket. That's what I do at all these kind of presentations. And it goes down a treat. Anyway, I've got these things all laid out on the table. I haven't fired one of them up, and I haven't opened any of the bottles. I haven't opened any of the tanks or anything like that. And this woman comes in late. She's maybe about 5-10 minutes late. So I'm well into what we're talking about. I'm getting questions thrown at me. And she makes a point of sitting as far away from me and the rest of them as she possibly could. I mean, literally right up the far end of the room. There was nobody else at that far end of the room. I looked and I thought, what's this? And I said, oh, welcome along to the meeting, blah, blah, blah. And she said, I can smell nicotine. And I went, weird. What? She says, I can smell nicotine. I says, what does it smell like? She says, oh, incense. And a couple of the people around about me began to giggle. and just shook their head. And I thought, how bizarre. And I said, I don't think it's nicotine you're smelling somehow. And then after this meeting, anyway, the meeting went on, and the rest of it was fine, no problem at all. Then after this meeting, I got to thinking, if she's so bothered about nicotine and smelling nicotine, or wants to stay as far away from nicotine as possible, what on earth is she doing working in stop smoking services? Yeah. She must be handling nicotine every day, puffs, gums, and all the rest. I mean, she must be utterly useless to that sector or whatever. Anyway, it's over and done with now, and I think there's going to be more of this. I'm hoping there's going to be more of this, because myself and Louise submitted an abstract for this next one that's coming up, and we're going to do something along the lines of stop smoking services and vaping 1 year on. So hopefully we've not been accepted on that yet, but I fully expect we will be, and we'll go up there and do our piece again, and hopefully we'll get an even better reception this time, and hopefully we'll get more questions, and hopefully we'll make more progress. So there's a lot going on still.
Well, all the best for that, for definite. I mean, we definitely need to get stop smoking services on board as much as possible.
To me, that's a big one, Keith. If we can get, I feel that a lot of them are on board, but they just can't.
But it's the people up above them, isn't it? Really.
That's right. That's right. And all this, it's not regulated nonsense. So what? It's not regulated. But my argument has always been, whatever it takes, one less cigarette smoked is another 11 minutes back on your life. It's a double negative, really, isn't it? Yeah. They say that for every cigarette you smoke, you lose 11 minutes of your life. So if you don't smoke when you would normally have smoked, that's 11 minutes that you've saved. So, and Ash Scotland, they keep coming up with this argument that they're not very happy about the dual users. They don't think it helps.
Of course it helps.
Well, exactly. As I say, every cigarette not smoked is a help. But they can't get their heads around that, or they don't want to get their heads around that. I don't know what it is. But I'll keep plugging away with that, and it's the sort of one that you can't really argue about it. They're stuck in their ways on that. But you can just keep bringing it up again, and maybe one day they'll say, oh, maybe you're right. So we'll keep going on it. We'll keep.
It's all you can do, isn't it, really?
Yeah. So hopefully I'll get a bit of a quiet week this week, although I'm just realising now I've got emails to write out, and I've got to get them out quick. I've got to keep these MSPs on the boil, while the iron's hot. I've got to keep the contact established, keep breathing down their necks, keep trying to get more meetings with them, and so forth. But it all takes time,
It's best to keep the flow of information going, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I feel better when I'm sat down on a one-to-one, rather than what I experienced there on the Tuesday. It threw me a wee bit, and as I say, I've learned from it. But I'm sure I'll make lots and lots more mistakes along the way. But my heart's in the right place, and I'll keep plugging away. I'm not giving up on it.
Your heart's definitely in the right place. There's absolutely
I think everybody's the same.
About that.
Yeah, I think we're all the same. We're all fighting for the same thing, And as I say, the buzz that I got out of the Glasgow School of Vape too, and the reception that we got there, and the camaraderie, and the generosity of the people. You
were talking to me earlier about the generosity of some of the vendors, and I couldn't believe that.
It was just incredible. It was incredible. I mean, all we had hoped to do was sell a few wristbands, and doing quite well with that. And then all of a sudden, vendors were coming up and saying, we've got stuff here for you guys. Can you auction it, and whatever you make on it, because they know that they can't directly donate to us because we can't accept donations from industry. So the way they got around that was a superb idea. Now, one guy, I won't name him or anything like that, he came up and said, he says, I've got £200 in my wallet here. He says, I'm going to spend that entire £200 on this auction. And I was like that, you don't even know what's in the auction yet. We didn't even know. But it got to the stage where stuff was getting auctioned off. I'll give you an example. And there was a whole pile of stuff. And I thought, I'm going to bid on this, just for the hell of it. Okay, it was good stuff. It was really good kit. A load of juices, tanks and stuff. And I won the auction at 70 quid. And I thought, right, put my hand in my pocket. got the 70 quid out, picked up the kit, slapped it back on the table and said, auction it again. So I donated the £70 to NNA basically. And other people were doing this as well. They were winning the auction and then saying, there's the money, now go and auction it all again. It was absolutely incredible. And they raised £715 on the day.
Incredible.
I mean, that was just utterly incredible. And again, one of the vendors, again, I won't name any vendors here because it's not fair on the others, or them indeed. One particular juice that I'd bought off him at the last Glasgow School of Vape, I thought, I'm going to see if he's got any of that. So I went up to him and I said, have you got any of this particular juice? He says, we've sold out of it. I said, oh, no. He says, I can mail it out to you. And I knew this stuff was about £17 for a 30ml bottle. It was just very expensive for a bottle of juice, but it was really, really good. And I said, right, here's 20 quid. Going to mail me some out. He says, forget the 20 quid. Just give me your name and address and I'll send it out. I said, no. I said, that's not what we're about here. We pay our way. I'm not in this to get freebies off of people and stuff like that. Here's 20 quid. Just mail me out a bottle. Yeah, great, no problems. How much do you want? He says, do you want half a litre of it? I said, no. I said, I want 20 quid's worth. I said, that's it, just 20 quid. Anyway, he says, right, okay. So I went away back to the NNA table, and next thing I know, he wanders, this is the managing director, this vendor. He wanders up to the NNA table and he says, here's 20 quid, give me 4 wristbands. And then he says, no, hang on, I don't want the wristbands, here's 20 quid. And we said, we can't take donations off you. He says, I'm donating this as a person. I said, right, okay, fair enough. And he says, oh, I'll take the wristbands and then I'll give them away. I thought, this is fantastic, And this sort of thing was going on all day. It was just non-stop goodwill. We just couldn't believe it. We were blown away. And an awful lot of people, they didn't know anything about the TPD. They didn't know anything about NNA. And they went away well versed in what we're about. So, and I think we've got quite a few more supporters signed up to the NNA website now. People know about us, they can get in touch with us and so forth. They know what we're doing and hopefully they'll support us.
A good day was had by all by the sound of it.
Oh, it was terrific, but as I say, it was a whole day out of my lead up to this oral evidence, and well, it was my own fault really. I should have been better prepared. But there you go. You can't change it. It is what it is. It was what it was.
At the end of the day, Andy, you did an amazing job.
Well, as I say, a lot of people said that to me, but I was beating myself up after it, thinking, you could have done so much more here. You could have got much better messages across. But I've got the contacts there now, and I can get a hold of these people and push the point home. But as I say, I just want to make sure that we get the follow-up right as well. And we don't want them going behind the closed doors and then just going and doing what they want. Yeah. So, and there will be problems further down the line. As I say, these lunatics are going to, I don't know where they're going to come from, whether it'll be other MSPs are going to want a public place ban, but we know it's going to come. It's going to be brought to the table at some point. So we have to be ready and to be on top of it and say, look, oh, this is bad. This is not good. I mean, what's going on in Wales is just, well, we know it's ridiculous. We're in a fortunate position up here. That is not happening up here yet. And I stress the word yet. If Wales do it, it makes it harder up here because then it gives them the impetus to say, yeah, Wales are doing it, so we might as well do it as well. So, but no, we'll keep plugging away, Keith. And it's good to know that the community out there are all supporting us in what we do. Can't say further.
We can't, mate. All we can do is keep, like you say, keep plugging away, keep plodding along and do what we do. Right, it's been amazing speaking to you, as always, Andy.
You too, and any time, that's what NNA are there for. You get in touch with us if you want anything. We'll do our best to support. What you guys are doing on VTTV is absolutely fantastic as well. You're getting the message out. You're helping us get our message across. It's terrific. And I know how good the people in chat are. I mean, they're just fantastic. Okay, I can't see what people are talking about as this is going out over the air, and it's a bit annoying because I know this is going out on Monday night, and I won't see anything because I'll have to be working from 4 o'clock until 11 o'clock Monday night. So I'll see the catch up on it. So I won't see what's happening in chat, which is a little bit nah. But I'll have a couple of beers and just imagine what all the people in chat are saying. Yeah, good people.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.
And we are back. So there you go. That was my interview with Andy Morrison of the NNA in full. And as you can see, there was quite a bit of information there that you didn't quite get from the show that DD did on Thursday's show. Quite a bit of in-depth information, really. And I'm going to bring DD in now to have a quick chat. We've only got about 10 minutes left now, so welcome DD to the show.
Hello.
How are you this evening, sir?
Absolutely marvellous. Thank you so much for inquiring. Yeah, I'm not bad.
Good.
A lot of work coming up. So
Oh, yeah,
looking forward to all of that. Down to the APPG on e-cigs on Wednesday. That'll be an interesting sojourn because I hear that Simon Capewell may well be there. That'll be interesting. I'm quite looking forward to having a debate with him. Although I hear he's not keen on one-to-one singular debates. He much prefers a mass debate. But I'm up for anything.
Yes. I can understand why he doesn't want a one-to-one debate. But he'd probably lose that anyway.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure he's of the ilk of the triumvirate. I've got to be honest. I think he's misguided. I think he's misinformed. I think he's disinformed.
Yes.
I think he's possibly trying to use e-cigs as a way of, I don't know, accelerating his career somehow. But it'll be interesting to hear what he's got to say, because it doesn't matter really what argument he puts up. There'll be people there that are perfectly capable of shooting him down in flames and pointing out at the same time that there's no burning, no flames, and no pyrolysis with e-cigs. So all of the crap he's been tweeting lately is, well, it's just that, isn't it? Crap. I won't say.
Well, we'll use a word that you used a few shows back. Bullshit.
Yes, we now have another word which we rather like. Bollodules.
Bollodules, yes.
Bollodules.
Well done to John Summers for that, by the way.
Absolutely. Bollojules and bullshit.
Yes.
It's, yes. And I freely admit that there are one or two people who have PM'd me on Twitter asking what a bollojule is. I've fought shy of sending them a picture, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yes.
There've been quite a few something jewels going on around Facebook and such.
There's all kinds of rubbish floating about at the moment, and I just wonder where they're getting the funding for it all from. Oh wait, no, I could be wrong, Farmer. I could be wrong, but yeah, one does have to wonder, especially when you look at the likes of the Centre for Environmental, whatever the is for, over in the States. That I mean. If it wasn't serious and if the money involved wasn't so vast, it would be hilarious. The fact that they're trying to use debunked and easily debunked pseudoscience in order to extract and extort money from... It's interesting, actually. I was sitting looking at it over the weekend, as you do, and the companies that they've picked on have all got a decent-sized wedge, if you like. There's a few bobs sitting in the coffers. They haven't gone after Daz with his little shop in Newcastle, and they haven't gone after the small people that haven't got the money because they're not interested. No. If they were truly interested in the whole health thing, they'd be going after absolutely everybody, and they're not. They're only going where they think they're going to get a settlement out of court. But I'm fairly sure that when you look at the likes of Fraser Cropper, at Totally Wicked, he's going to sit there and go, oh no, let's go to court. Let's take it to court. Let's get the truth out there. And, I'll carry his briefcase for him. In fact, I'll sit down and let him sit on me back. That's how much support I'm prepared to give him. Because anybody that fights that kind of rubbish is my kind of person. I like that a lot.
Yes. I think Fraser Cropper will be sitting there saying, bring it on.
Yes. Not quite in that accent, but definitely yes.
not in that accent. No.
Yeah,
bring it on, mate.
It'll be there. Actually, it's not just Fraser. There'll be a few.
Yeah.
Sitting there going, yeah, come on, bring it. Let's have it. Let's get this thing going. Let's get it into court. Because in the States, of course, if the courts make a decision, that seems to affect. It sets precedent that then seems to be very, very difficult to break. You've just got to look at what's happened in prior judgments. So I don't know. I don't know too much about the US legal system, but I do think that one, e-cigs would win straight away. CEH would be sent away, licking its tail, a beaten dog, without a shadow of a doubt. That's my feeling. More to the point, what I would love to see would be them bringing Stanton Glantz in as an expert witness, and him to say to Bubblegum and Simple Simon down in Australia, why don't you come along, guys? We can have them as expert witnesses as well. I'd like to see the three of them buried in this court case. I think it's an ideal opportunity to show them up for the complete work, for the total cut, for the numpties that they have.
Yeah. I agree, definitely.
Yes.
We need to get them all in the same room and show them up for the charlatans that they are.
Oh yes, that's a good word, charlatan. You know that deck of cards thing?
Yes.
Where they go through and say what all the different cards mean. You could do that using the initials for charlatan. Trouble is, if we started with the C, we'd be taken straight off air.
Yes, we would.
Yes. That would just be wrong. And it would be wrong of us to do that because, let's face it, Simon Chapman, for instance, is a well-respected... Oh, no, he's not. The Australian government said he's on the take from the wind farm industry. Oh, sorry, I do apologise. But Bubblegum's no, he's not either because he got booed out of a Public Health England meeting, didn't he? But of course, I mean, Stan Glatton's no, sorry, I've got that wrong as well. No, he's not a scientist. He's a field mechanic. I'm sorry, I'll shoot.
Yes, they're all very well retarded. Is that no? Yeah.
No, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. I mean, Stan can't do maths and he doesn't understand logic. That's fair enough. Simon can't do maths and he doesn't understand logic. And Bubblegum, I can't do anything, like, I just wait and do what I've been told to do based on Simon. They give me the script and then I'll sit down and pretend I didn't write an editorial, and then I write a letter saying what a good editorial it was, because nobody knows it was me except I just told you. Oh shit. I'm probably going to get wrong now, You
think so?
Yeah, I can see Sav loading the gun.
So at the end of the day, Dave, what do you think people should do to help?
Fight.
Yes.
Fight.
Definitely.
There's 2.6 million e-cig users in the UK. There's more than that now.
Definitely.
I went into my local vape shop, which is probably a mile. I could walk there, so it's not that far. It's about a mile away. And I had a cracking afternoon chatting to the lads. One or two, it was more than one or two. There was lots of people coming in. And they were telling me that since the PHA report, they've seen the business go skyrocketing. People are coming in left, right, and centre to get into e-cigs, and they're buying into all kinds of stuff, and that's fabulous. So the numbers are going to be huge.
Yeah.
But we need everybody to fight. That's all of us needs everybody else to fight, because bottom line is, you've seen what Andy's been doing, and you've seen how important it is to Andy that he does what he does. And it's the same for everybody. We've all got skin in this race. We've all got something to lose. And if we don't fight, if we don't get out there, if we just leave it up to a handful of people, then if it does all go tits up, who have you got to blame? All right, it could be me, it could be Sarah, it could be Laurie, and you can blame all of us. But if you don't do anything yourself, then, it needs everybody out there making a noise. We need to get in front of our MPs, our assembly members. We need to get in front of MSPs. We need to get in front of MEPs, and we need to make a noise and tell them it like it is and get them told, the TPD is the biggest pile of festering dingo kidneys you've ever seen on the face of the planet. It's idiotic legislation brought about by idiots to try and make money for other useful idiots and their friends. And it just isn't going to work. It's not going to have the effect that they think it is. It's not going to help. It's not going to stop people smoking. If anything, it's going to do the reverse. And at the very worst, for a lot of people, it's going to give the whole of the e-cig market to big tobacco. And that's the one thing the TPD doesn't want to see. That's the one thing the MEPs didn't want to see. It's the one thing that the World Health Organization doesn't want to see through its FCTC, the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. And yet everything that they're doing is handing it straight to the big tobacco companies. If that's what they want to do, then let them get on with it. But they'll see the end of e-cigs if they do. I'm convinced of that now.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what you say, Dave, there's a hardcore of people that are working their butts off to do what they can to help. But it needs all vapors everywhere to be doing the same thing.
It needs everybody to be doing everything they can.
Yeah.
That's what we look. Here's a daft thing. There's been all this messing about with Syrian refugees, and there was a petition started on Friday. By Sunday, it had achieved 300,000 signatures. It now stands at 500,000.
Yeah.
That's in 4 or 5 days. Where are we with e-cigs? How important is it to people? This is the point. Now, I'm not saying that the petition's going to be acted on. I'm not, but everybody's making a noise about it. People are making a noise about it. It's time we made a lot of noise about e-cigs. Otherwise, they might just be taken away from us. We make a noise, we might succeed. If we don't make a noise, we won't succeed. If you try, you might fail, but you might also succeed. And success is what we're looking for. So like I say, I'm going to fight the fight. I'll keep fighting the fight until they nail the lid down. As long as it takes, I'm there to do it. And I'd just like to see 2.6 million people more doing the same sort of thing. I'm not saying a lot of people aren't. There's a lot of people doing a lot of good work, but there's so many more that we need to reach. There are so many more vapers out there that we need to get valuable, and we need to be spreading the word. We need to get evangelistic about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm getting ranty and preachy. I'll shut up.
Well, let's face it, Dave. I mean, you're going to the ends of the earth to do things. You're going to New Zealand soon to do things.
Yes.
If you're prepared to do that, why can't people do something simple, like just write to their MP, write to their MEP?
Yes. That's a hell of a place to reply to Bob and Sav that are doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're hand jiving. I think we've come to the end of the show.
Yeah, I think we have. So let's wrap things up. Right.
Healthy Vape, UK purveyor of e-cigarettes and e-liquids. Proud sponsors of vaping entertainment on Vapor Trails TV.